Hello, I'm the Angry Spork. As a way of winding down from reviewing two maxi series, we'll be going to a single issue per episode format, because man does it get exhausting reviewing 3 issues in 20 plus minutes. With that in mind, I'm taking issue with a 4-part miniseries starring Wolverine's arch-nemesis, Sabretooth, written by Larry Hama, with art by Max Texiera. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Let's crack open Sabretooth Death Hunt #1 and see if this story makes us want to turn the page or turn our heads. The cover features a red background with the character's name in black, jagged along the edges. Pretty fitting for the guy, if you ask me. There's a sidebar with the full title and tagline: Ambushed by his past, on a quest for his life. Those could easily be lyrics to a folk song from the 1960s. Or a rap song from the 1990s. Look in the O's and you'll see a portion of the featured art just behind the cover, an image of the villain skulking towards the reader, though maybe not so much skulking since we clearly see him. We begin in a limousine owned by someone who prefers to go by Cyborg, having driven from Seattle to Vancouver to take Victor Creed home. The Brood is being his usually classy self, contemplating whether or not to kill the guy. Cyborg, or Pharaoh if you want to ignore his naming preference, can detect multiple hostile minds as they stop at a mansion, asking if Vic would like him to stick around. Get lost, Cyborg! And true to his word, he does, never seen again for the rest of the series. Or maybe he's in the background or something. It isn't like we can tell what he looks like in this panel. As the limo takes off, Tooth is attacked by ninjas, out for revenge for Creed's murder of their clan leader. They don't specify in dialogue, but given the red color scheme, it's a safe bet these are the Hand, a rather well-known organization in the Marvel Universe. We'll take your skull and carve it into a bedpan! Oh, come on. A skull would be a terrible bedpan. It'd be uncomfortable and end up making a mess on the bed anyway. This is why you didn't make it in medical school. Vic knocks the lot of them back and buzzes at the gate for someone called Birdie. The ninja approach again, ready to die if it means taking out their quarry, though Sabretooth retorts he's been ready to die since before the ninja were born. Man, that's depressing. Though it does raise the question of why he's fighting back. Anyway, after a huge explosion, we see Birdie, standing more like she's posing for a calendar than firing the satirically large gun that would just knock her to the ground, if she could even lift it realistically. I mean, she doesn't look all that muscular, and unless that weapon's made of wicker, I imagine she'd need both hands to even attempt it, instead of one being on her hip. She looks like a poster that would hang in Judge Dredd's bedroom. I am the law, but you are my dream girl. Yo. I bet they could make a pretty penny if they recycled all those spent shells on the ground. Anyway, after apologizing for her tardiness, from keeping an eye on a batch of ninjas camped out in the back, she finishes the last of them off, saying that there have been a slew of offers being faxed to the house in Sabretooth's absence. As he kicks open a door, in his own place for some reason, he detects a worry in her voice that the work will dry up, but that isn't likely for an assassin so long as there's greed, loathing, fear, and envy to fuel demand. A whimsical way of explaining what Creed does for a living while explaining how he affords a mansion of his own. Later, he's taking a soak with Judge Birdie massaging him. When she suggests he cool out, Vic takes offense at being told what to do and throws her into the tub. She threatens the damage she could do as a psychic that frequently traipses through his mind, but Tooth doesn't believe she'll do it, as there's nowhere he couldn't find her if she should attempt something and it fails. You wouldn't last 5 minutes without Instagramming the chicken salad sandwich you'd have at the Panera Bread downtown. After chugging some champagne, he mentions Cyborg unscrambled some rather horrific memories, and further encourages Birdie to do her job, so she obliges, launching a psychic beam. The result is a pastel background with forms that start out imprecise but eventually become clearer, as Vic describes the experience being like 2 dissimilar feelings at once: life and death, desire and fear, that sort of thing. Then we see the image of a small child in a onesie named Creed,
manacled with a wire mesh muzzle, asking if Birdie will be his friend, but looking rather sinister. No red flags there. The child describes how they can't know about his friendships, are always punishing him and threatening to lock him in a root cellar for good. As Birdie gets closer, we see a rather odd coloration blur beneath her eye. It could be shading, but it looks starkly different from the rest of the comic. The restraints come off, and the child starts throttling Birdie, until realizing the woman means him no harm. They hug until the vision ends, with Tooth chastising his employee for wasting time on phantoms and punches her. This job must have the worst benefits. Creed heads up a flight of stairs, telling Birdie he needs the glow her powers provide to take away his pain.
That seems less like taking away pain and more rechanneling it to someone who doesn't really deserve it, you jackwagon.
And looking at the trophies on his staircase walls, one of them is a pair of hands holding an axe. Vic must have been feeling really creative that day. Later that night, Birdie is in nothing but a towel, probably because you build up quite a sweat when you get smacked around by a psychopath, and proceeds to disable the mansion's security system. This grants access to a group of muscle-bound commando types with big, complicated-looking guns. Despite Birdie telling them he's asleep, we see Victor waking up, knowing someone else is around. Noticing the vault-like bedroom door is closed when Birdie left it open, she tries warning the intruders, but they don't listen to her as they open it with a missile. But, surprise for the mercenaries, Sabretooth is suited up and rearms his security after taking out some of his foes himself. As mines and wall spikes take out more enemies. Yeesh, even without blood, that's pretty graphic, especially for a comic with the Comics Code Authority label on it. Anyway, Birdie evades the traps because she knows them oh so well.
Even so, it still wasn't exactly smart to do all this while only wearing a towel.
Some gas, tasers, and triple-strength horse tranquilizers later, the killer is subdued enough to be netted and carried off, swearing revenge on his subordinate. We jump to a flashback where a child is chained to a wall by the neck, surrounded by a water dish, some bones, and what looks like a ball and rattle. I don't know what that liquid is he's sitting in, but I somehow doubt it's water. A man walks from upstairs, intending to ply out the boy's devil teeth and claws to help beat the evil out of him. A woman tries to stop him, insisting the child may be a trial in the same way Job was tested, but only to get bitten for her troubles. I guess that was all the convincing she needed, since now she holds the boy's head as the pliers close in on his teeth, and Sabretooth wakes up on an X-shaped operating table being stitched up by a Dr. Mabuse. There's really nothing to indicate villainy better, like having your name almost entirely being a word like abuse. Apparently, the past week has seen Creed getting a full system upgrade, enough for an off-panel voice to refer to him as what he thinks arcade-goers would say, Turbo Sabretooth.
Shut up, comic!
The only context we're given for a full system upgrade is that, as Victor notes, he's been made stronger, noting what a bad idea that'll end up being for the people that did it to him. We're introduced to the Tribune, who looks like a reject from the original Transformers, saying the extensive operation has been so Tooth can carry out a special assassination. As insurance that he goes along with it, he's been implanted with Hyperthermite 3. I just hate Dynasty explosives, so smug and uppity, which he demonstrates using a hand ninja they'd found on Creed's property, causing him to explode and his remains to burn away.
I suppose we could have just showed you a video of the explosive at work in a field test, but we had a spare ninja prisoner not doing anything, and sure, it made a mess, but, well, this is what we pay janitors for.
Tribune's target is the shape-shifting mutant Mystique, whom Creed has 48 hours to eliminate as soon as he's fully healed and accepts the job. Vic tells him to start the clock, and warns that after this kill, the Tribune is next. After a couple of pages, we have a couple pin-ups for the title character, one where it looks like he's menacingly standing beside some water, and another where he's fighting Wolverine. but it's a tad awkward given how little of Wolvie there is. Then we have the back cover, which has the same red background as the front, but has the image of Sabretooth leaping out from page 16.
So the story gets a fairly interesting start. The artwork isn't quite to my taste. I feel like the lines are a bit too scratchy, and the overuse of darker inks makes the characters seem less distinct, which isn't helpful if you're not familiar with the likes of Birdie or Cyborg. However, the relationship between Birdie and Creed is fairly well established so far. Tune in next time as Creed starts his new job and the crazy water cooler conversations that are sure to follow. And blood spilling, probably a lot of blood spilling.